Let's do a new segment.
Okay.
It's called Blind Resume.
Oh, we're hiring too. So.
Oh, we are hiring, by the way. If you want to work with us and you like to do math and you can code, go to profootballfocus.com/jobs and apply. Hit us up on Twitter if you got any questions. Okay, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback one. This is since 2014, by the way. Percentage of throws that were positively graded, 21.7. Negatively graded throws, 15.3. Yards per attempt, 6.8. Passer rating when clean, 94. Passer rating under pressure, 61. Okay, so quarterback number two. Positive throw rate, 21.6. Quarterback one was 21.7. Negative throw rate, 15.2. Quarterback number one was 15.3. Yards per attempt for quarterback number two, 6.7. Quarterback number one was 6.8. Passer rating when clean for quarterback number two was 92. For quarterback one, it was 94. And passer rating under pressure for quarterback two was 53. For quarterback one, it was 60.
So just based upon, I think that the guy that it was a little bit better under pressure was Foles.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And guy number two?
So all Blake Bortles.
Oh, wow, you're good at this.
Yeah.
I can't believe you were able to figure that out.
So are you trying to say that Nick Foles fundamentally is similar to Bortles?
From a production standpoint.
Yeah.
I do think there are some differences. Like I think Blake Bortles is a very good runner of the football.
Yep.
And they're going to miss that a little bit because their receivers were terrible. And their blocking was not very good.
Well, and like, what do we take from... Right, and in Philadelphia, they had, offensive line that was generally pretty good. Alshon Jeffrey and Nick Foles got along really well. They had two really good tight ends.
By the way, this includes playoffs.
Yeah.
So
but Bortles was pretty good.
Since Bortles entered in his career, these two quarterbacks, their EPA per dropback separated by 1/1000th.
So essentially, you needed to add in playoffs to make Foles look better relative to Bortles,
right?
And they end up being relatively even. So I think that that's a really interesting issue because Nick Foles clearly is able to hop on the variance train every once in a while and just give you performances that Blake Bortles was incapable of, right?
I like to hop on the variance train every once in a while,
but we've seen Bortles, and again, like there's an endpoint issue with this analysis too, right? Because we're leaving out 13,
right?
In which case Nick Foles was able to leverage
he does look a little better.
Innovative offense from Chip Kelly to play really well. We're also ignoring 2012, his rookie year, in which case he was pretty poor. So
yeah.
I think the real issue here is if you're a Jaguars fan, what are your expectations of Nick Foles?
Well, what should they be?
What should they be? Yeah.
I mean,
because I think if you're not fair to Nick Foles, this is going to be like St. Louis.
Don't you think that they haven't changed any part of what potentially takes their team to the promised land? So you talk about Nick Foles hopping on the variance train. Okay, but you've got to get to the playoffs first. That Eagles defense was very, 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 very good that season. They allowed them to get that far despite the quarterback injury. So to me, like, could you see that type of a season? Sure, this defense is that talented, right? They have their range of outcomes does include a fair chunk where they are first in the NFL, where they catch every turnover-worthy throw like the Bears did last season, right? Where they have Jalen Ramsey playing at that high-end level, where A.J. Boye, DJ Hayden somehow is able to play in the slot, right? They don't burn a draft pick on defensive interior stud Taven Bryan. Those things can happen.
Yep.
And if Nick Foles is your quarterback and you make it into the playoffs, you have a chance.
I think so. Yeah, I agree.
So to me, the expectations are probably the mean is the same, but your optimism, should you get somewhere, is higher.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're in the AFC title game with the Patriots and you're ahead by 4 going into we talked about this at length when the podcast began. If you have the opportunity to go for a drive at the end of the half and you're with the Patriots in a game, I do think Nick Foles gives that coaching staff more of an oomph to try. Whereas I think with Bortles, you always knew he was limited, and anything good you got from Bortles was like a extra credit. Whereas I think Foles, the thing is if you ever get into a season, so when I was on this with Palazzolo the other day, I was saying, look, the expectation is going to be 8-8, but I think you're going to get an equal number of 6-10 seasons as you're going to get 10-6 seasons, 12-4 seasons. I think Foles is capable of that. I don't think Bortles is. And if you're a Jacksonville team that was just in the AFC title game 2 years ago, that's really your goal. 8-8's really not what a team with that level of defense is going to strive for, much like Minnesota, right? Like you're looking to go 12-4, win the AFC South, and make hay in the playoffs.
Don't cheat on me with Palazzolo.
I'm sorry, yeah.
The interesting thing about this, though, is so I agree with you completely. Nick Foles gives you a little more confidence. But just like Bortles needed to be able to run play action a ton, needed to have crossers running wide open in order to make throws, Nick Foles was only successful in that Eagles offense once they went to, okay, we are really going to dedicate ourselves to quick throws to get his confidence up. It wasn't until that Patriots game where he just made ridiculous throws under pressure. You can't. So to sustain some things, you've got to have some supporting cast, just like you did with Blake Bortles. But I think the difference is that Nick Foles, let me see if I can get this out correctly, commands the respect of the locker room.
I think that's absolutely true, and. So
that's the real issue here, though. So why do you pay Nick Foles all of this money?
You pay Nick Foles all that money because and I don't think this is trivial. I think he does offer hope in a way that Bortles doesn't. Now, we can't quantify that and we can't measure it and all that kind of stuff, but I do think when you go into a season, like if you're a defense and you're like, look, I've seen Nick Foles come from behind and beat a team like New England in the Super Bowl. If you're playing with Bortles, you say, look, we have to play a perfect game or else we're going to lose. Like, I do think that adds more pressure